Okay, folks, Rich Van Tassel back with you, continuing on with our recap of Week 4, the early games of the NFL season. The Jacksonville Jaguars losing to the New York Jets. They dropped to 2-2. I'm going to just talk about this game in a moment. The Jets get to 2-2. The Jets somehow are 2-2 and 2-0 at home. Jaguars 1-1 on the road. Blake Bortles awful, 15 of 35, 140 yards, one touchdown, one interception. You can't tell me that Colin Kaepernick would not make this team competitive in a very pedestrian division. Leonard Fournette 24 carries, 86 yards, 3.6 yards per rush. Chris Ivory 9 of 42, 4.7 yards per rush. Blake Bortles 4 runs for 38 yards, 9.5. The team 39 of 175, 4.5 yards per rush. Leonard Fournette top receiver 4 of 59, a touchdown. Allen Hurns 4 of 42. Marquise Lee 2 of 18. Miles Jack recovered a fumble. We'll talk about that. He returned that all the way for a touchdown. I'll talk about that when I talk about this game at the end. Barry Church, Calais Campbell, Dante Fowler Jr. all have 1 sack. Nanak Naguchi had 2 sacks. A.J. Boyd had an interception. Corey Grant, 1 kick return, 20 yards. This game was overtime. I don't know if I mentioned that before. Marquise Lee, 1 punt return, no yards. Jason Myers, 2 for 3 in his field goals. His missed, he completely sliced it right. Josh McCown, 22 of 31, 224 yards, no touchdown, 1 interceptions. Lachlan Edwards, the punter, had a fake punt in this game and completed it for 31 yards. Bilal Powell, 21 carries, 163 yards, 7.8 yards per rush, 1 touchdown. Elijah McGuire, 10 for 93, 9.3 yards per rush, a touchdown. Both guys had a 75 and a 69-yard touchdown. So altogether, the team 32 of 256, 8 yards per rush, 2 touchdowns. You have 2 long runs like that that'll do that to your numbers. The touchdown by Bilal Powell, he was believed by the Jaguars defense to be marked down. He wasn't, got up and ran for a touchdown. Robbie Anderson, 3 receptions, 59 yards. Austin Safarian Jenkins, 4 of 46. Elijah McGuire, 2 of 38. Josh McCown, 3 fumbles, lost 1 of them, recovered 2. 1 sack belonged to David Bass. Coney Ely had the interception. It was a deflected pass. Darius Stewart, 1 kick return, 32 yards. Jeremy Curley, 1 punt return for 7 yards. Chandler Kente, 0-3 for 4 in his field goals. We'll start with the Jaguars, really short and to the point. A chance to be a bad... I don't care that the Jets are 2-2. This is a bad football team. The Jaguars clearly... I don't want to say worse. They're just worse when Blake Bortles can't get his act right, which is the case here. They're a terrible team when Blake Bortles plays like this, or any quarterback, but we've seen it from Blake Bortles. But you want to show you're improving, you're progressing, you have a chance against the Jets team, and you let it slip away. And then we'll transition that into the Jets, because the Jets were trying to give this game away. That touchdown we talked about with Miles Jack on the fumble recovery for a touchdown went about 90 yards. The Jets have a 10-point lead, driving in the inside the 20. A chance to either get a field goal or a touchdown or just run some clock in the meantime. What are you doing calling that play? This game, as you would expect, went down to the wire in overtime. I'm convinced more with the Jets winning this game that they're still trying to tank. You can't tell me there's no funny business going on, and my eyes are somehow deceiving me. There's no reason you call that play that the Jets called in that situation, where you throw a backwards pass with a guy not looking when you're up 10 with about 8 minutes left, driving down inside the 15. It was absurd. I'm sorry. It's too much funny business going on for me to believe the Jets are not tanking. And then you saw what happened in overtime. It was god-awful. And the Jets somehow escaped there with the victory. They are 2-2 somehow. The Jaguars should be ashamed of themselves. They had a chance in this game. And Blake Bortles, it is what it is. Please, no one ever tell me that Colin Kaepernick is not a better quarterback than Blake Bortles. You're just not correct. It's really as simple as that. Cincinnati getting their first win of the season, 31-7 over the Cleveland Browns. Here's another guy, even though we'll do Cincinnati's box score first, DeShone Kizer. All right? Tell me DeShone Kizer is a better quarterback than Colin Kaepernick. Andy Dalton, 25 of 30, 286 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Andy Dalton, 4 carries, 29 yards, 7.3 yards per rush. Joe Mixon, 17 of 29, 1.7 yards per rush. Jeremy Hill, 6 of 16, 2.7 yards per rush. The team, 30 of 86, 2.9 yards per rush. Tyler Croft, 6 of 68, receiving 2 touchdowns. Giovanni Bernard, 3 of 67. A.J. Green, 5 of 63 in this game. All of those guys had the touchdowns. Joe Mixon had 4 receptions for 19 yards as well. Andy Dalton fumbled once, lost 1, and recovered 1. Jeremy Hill fumbled. It was not lost. Russell Bodine fumbled and recovered a fumble. Interesting fumble scenario there for the Bengals. Nick Vigil and Darquez Denard had sacks. Clayton Fitzgerald had an interception. Giovanni Bernard, one kick return, 7 yards. Adam Jones, one punt return of 40 yards. Alex Erickson, 5 of 33. Randy Bullock, 1 for 1. In his field goals, for the Cleveland Browns, DeShone Kizer, 16 of 34, 118 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. And frankly, I know I went off about Kaepernick in this case with DeShone Kizer. Clearly, I don't think Kaepernick would be a fit in Cleveland to begin with because they're that bad. But just all these morons out there who tell you it's because Kaepernick is not good enough. Okay, he's better than DeShone Kizer, who went 16 of 34, 118 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Frankly, he should not be out there. DeShone Kizer should not. Kevin Hogan, 5 of 8, 65 yards. Isaiah Crowell, 7 carries, 20 yards. Duke Johnson Jr., 4 of 13. He had the touchdown. DeShone Kizer, 5 of 10. 17 of 45, 2.6 yards per rush, and the touchdown by Duke Johnson Jr. in the running game. Ricardo Lewis, 5 receptions, 64 yards. Kenny Britt, 3 of 52. Duke Johnson Jr., 9 of 47. David Njoku, 2 of 11. Emmanuel Ogbah recovered a fumble. J.C. Treader had a fumble. It was not lost or recovered. DeShone Kizer recovered a fumble. The team, 3 sacks. Caleb Brantley, Trevin Coley, and Emmanuel Ogbah. No interceptions. Jabril Peppers, 5 kick returns, 116 yards. Longest of 29, average of 23.2. That's good. Jabril Peppers, 3 punt returns of 4 yards. That's not very good. Zane Gonzalez missed a field goal. It's just all going wrong for the Cleveland Browns. Look, Cincinnati, very quick with them. They got their offense rolling. Certainly, if you ever needed the Cleveland Browns on your schedule, it's now. Clearly a tough task to get out of 1-3. You see what you can do, though. You take it one game at a time. For the Cleveland Browns, you're trying to make progress. You have all those draft picks. You've got to show it. That's why, I mean, you send DeShone Kizer out there. He's not showing it. I expect him to move to the bench. I hope this doesn't wreck, the guy's career. You see it many times with guys who are just not ready to be in a system, are not ready to start. They're sent out there, and DeShone Kizer, wasn't even or was known to be raw coming in. So what do you take away from this season if you're the Cleveland Browns? How do you build everything if you don't even know what your quarterback can bring? So it's going to be a bad season, of course, for the Cleveland Browns, but could be even worse if they don't know what to do with that quarterback situation. The Houston Texans absolutely throttled the Tennessee Titans 57-14. Marcus Mariota left the game. He was 6 of 10, 96 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Matt Castle, 4 for 10, 21 yards, no touchdowns, 4 interceptions. You wonder why you lose 57-14. Marcus Mariota, 4 carries, 39 yards, 9.8 yards per rush. He did have 2 touchdowns. Boy, I saw one of those. Man, that boy can fly. DeMarco Murray, 7 of 31, 4.4 yards per rush. The team, 19 of 86, 4.5 yards per rush. And the 2 touchdowns by Mariota. Delaney Walker, 3 of 51 receiving. Rashard Matthews, 3 of 49. Eric Decker, 2 of 13. Matt Castle lost a fumble. So your backup quarterback comes in the second half. It's not like he started the second half. Okay, the game was into the second half, and you have 3 turnovers. Derek Morgan had a sack. Who had the other sack here? And Jarrell Casey had the other. Kevin Bird had an interception. Adoree Jackson, 3 kick returns, 71 yards, longest of 48, however, so that brings the numbers up. Ryan Suckup did not attempt a field goal. Adoree Jackson had 1 punt return for 3 yards. For the Texans, Deshaun Watson, 25 of 34, 283 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interceptions. Lamar Miller, 19 of 75, 3.9 yards per rush, 1 touchdown. Donta Foreman, 3 of 45, 3.5 yards per rush. Deshaun Watson, 4 of 24, 6 yards per rush. Lamar Miller and Deshaun Watson had the touchdowns. The team, 42 of 173, 4.1 yards per rush, 2 touchdowns. That's pretty sad. It just shows how bad, as Matt Castle turning the ball over 3 times coming in the third quarter doesn't show you how bad it was. A team that's beating your brains in, you know they're going to run the ball, and they still run 42 times and go over 4 yards per carry. DeAndre Hopkins, 10 receptions, 107 yards, 1 touchdown. Lamar Miller, 4 of 56, 1 touchdown. Will Fuller, the 5th, 4 of 35, 2 touchdowns. Brandon Dunn recovered a fumble, 2 sacks. Jadeveon Clowney and Dylan Cole, Andre Hall, Dylan Cole, Marcus Gilchrist all had interceptions. Dylan Cole returned his 25 yards for a touchdown. Hall had 2 of them. Chris Thompson, 1 kick return, 42 yards. Tyler Irvin, 1 punt return of 4 yards. Will Fuller, the 5th, 1 had a punt return, no yards. Chris Thompson, the same thing. Kaimin Ferribin made his only field goal, or was it one field goal? Excuse me, 3 of 3. I don't know what I was reading there. Tennessee, look, maybe they're not ready for the prime time as I thought. We'll see how that Mariota injury is. This defense, that was the one concern I had, was their secondary, and clearly it showed today. As for the Houston Texans, look, Deshaun Watson played very well. Of course, the entire team did. They bludgeoned the Tennessee Titans. You got to make sure you don't get too big for your britches in this situation. Tennessee's secondary is not very good, so let's see how they respond moving forward in future weeks. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, this was another beatdown game, 26-9 over the Baltimore Ravens, and frankly, it wasn't even that close. Ben Roethlisberger, 18-30, 216 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Le'Veon Bell, 35 of 144, 4.1 yards per rush, 2 touchdowns. James Conner, 4 of 26, 6.5. 42 of 173, 4.1 yards per rush, 2 touchdowns. Martavius Bryant, 3 of 48. Juju Smith-Schuster, 3 of 47. Le'Veon Bell, 4 of 42. This is in the receiving game. Antonio Brown, 4 of 34. Remember, we discussed the situation where Bell gets it going. Antonio Brown may not. You look at it in this game, obviously Le'Veon Bell had it going. I wouldn't say that Antonio Brown did not, though. They just didn't need to go downfield that much, and they were running the ball very effectively. So I'm not going to say Pittsburgh's offense still didn't really find it, because they just didn't need to throw that much. Cameron Hayward recovered a fumble. Le'Veon Bell fumbled. It was not lost. 4 sacks. Vince Williams and Bud Dupree split one. Cameron Hayward had 2. Mike Hilton had the other. Mike Hilton also had an interception. Ryan Shazier had an interception. Terrell Watson, 2 kick returns, 36 yards. Antonio Brown, 2 for 15. In the punt returns, Chris Boswell, 2 for 3 in his field goals. For the Baltimore Ravens, Joe Flacco, 31 of 49, 235 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Alex Collins, 9 carries, 82 yards, 9.1 yards per rush. Javoris Allen, 2 of 7, 3.5 yards per rush. Mike Wallace, 6 of 55, receiving a touchdown. Benjamin Watson, 5 of 43. Javoris Allen, 6 of 37. Alex Collins lost a fumble. Joe Flacco fumbled once, recovered it. Michael Campanaro, the same thing. Fumbled once and recovered a fumble. They might have recovered each other's fumbles or recovered their own. I don't know. Ladarius Webb had an interception. Had a sack. It was the only one. Eric Weddle had the only interception. Alex Collins, 2 kick returns, 50 yards. Michael Campanaro, 2 for 46. Michael Campanaro had a punt return for no yards. Justin Tucker was 1 for 2 in his field goals. He attempted a 62-yarder at the end of the half, however. Baltimore, their running game was decent in this one, as you could say. Alex Collins, 9 of 82, 9.1 yards per rush. He did fumble, though, and you weren't running the ball that much. And a lot of these runs were, late in games where you're just trying to pick up yards, so a defense may be keened back to pass when you're down that much. So give them credit for getting the run game going. Let's see if Alex Collins can be the guy. It's been by committee, and it hasn't been effective, and now you have a situation where Alex Collins, the guy who had the best game, fumbled. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, look, Ben Roethlisberger had a lot of incompletions on only 30 passes. We talked about the Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown dynamic. We'll see what happens moving forward. Again, though, they had the big lead, and they were running the ball very well, so we can't really say that Antonio Brown was not consistent or good in this game. It's just a situation where they did not need to pass the ball very much. All right, that's it for the 1 o'clock games. When the other games go final, we will give you the recap of that. Be sure to stay tuned. And remember, we appreciate all subscriptions as well. Have a good day, folks.